Okay everybody, I'm going to show you how to download our terrains and get them set up in Maya with all the textures, displacement, etc. using Redshift as our renderer. Okay, so you just go to our site, TheTerrainDomain.com, pick which terrain you want. In this case, we're going to our desert terrains. We're going to get Salton Desert B as our product, and we're going to download that. And once you have your file downloaded, you'll notice that you have a FBX and a text directory. So the FBX is our models and text is our textures, obviously. So inside of our texture directory, we have two versions or two resolutions. We have 8K and 16K, identical textures, just different resolutions. Then we have our displacement maps at 16-bit and 32-bit, and then we have our normal map. So let's check out our texture maps really quick, just so you can see what the difference is. So we have our color map, our spec map, and our bump map. Okay, so now I'm going to walk you through setting all this up in Maya. So first thing we'll do is we'll set our project. Okay, now we'll import our model. There we go. And we'll need to rotate that a little bit. Looks like 90 degrees. Okay, so now we have our model in the right orientation. So now let's go to our hypershade here, and we'll set up our three maps. Okay, so we're going to create Redshift material, and then we're going to go to our attribute editor, pick our color map, click on File, click on the folder to load our texture, and then we're going to go to 8K. This is just a test, and these are faster, and pick our color map. Okay, and now we'll do the specular map in our reflection tab here. We'll go to our color attribute channel, click on that icon, click on File, load our spec map. Boom. Okay, so now we have these two maps loaded, and next thing we need to do is we'll need to add our bump map if you want it. So go to your hypershade, click on shader, and click on Redshift bump map, and you can see it creates a node here for us. So now we just drag this over to the bump channel, and then we'll add our image file. Click here to load our texture for bump. Okay, and then now we can always adjust our values later. We'll put it at 0.1 now just so it's visible. Okay, and now one of the last steps we need to do now is we need to do one of the most important steps as well is adding our displacement map. Okay, since we're using Redshift, we want to select on our material node here, and then go to Redshift tab, click on displacement shader under the Redshift tab, and then we'll load in our displacement file. There we go. We'll load the 16-bit. Okay, so now we have our displacement map loaded, and we can always adjust our scale right here. And if you click on this displacement node, and then your attribute editor, you can adjust your scale values right here, 0.5 or 1, etc. Typically, 1 is a pretty good value to start with our settings so far that we found in Redshift. So that works pretty well. And one of the most important things you need to remember here is whenever you assign your material to your object, when you're using displacement in Redshift, one thing you always have to remember to do is you need to go to your object, and you need to go to your Redshift tab, and you need to click on tessellation and displacement. Both of these need to be checked for your displacement map to work, otherwise you'll get nothing. So just go ahead and check those. Okay, so now we have all of our materials connected. Right, we have our color map, our spec, our bump, and our displacement, and then we have our displacement value set at 1 and our bump channel set at 0.1 for now, and then we made sure to click on our object and again go to your under your Redshift tab, check or enable tessellation and displacement, and that'll do it. So now we will create a light and get this rendering. Go to our Redshift tab at the top, go to lights, Redshift dome light. Okay, so now we're going to load an HDRI map into our dome light. So go to our folder here under dome map, And we're going to navigate up and just pick whatever HDRI file you have. Let's see, there we go, that'll work. Okay, so now that we have this set up, we need to go to our render globals, or render settings, this tab right here, or right here rather. And we need to make sure we're on Redshift. Boom. Okay, that'll kick it all in. And let's up our res a little bit. Okay, so we have our settings, we have our light, we have our materials. Now let's go ahead and press render here. Or actually, we'll bring up our Redshift view. And now we'll press this play button to enable or kick off the render. Okay, now we have our render, and it looks a little crazy. That's because our value of our displacement is a little too high. So let's go to our hypershade, and we'll click on our displacement channel here. And we're going to go to our attribute editor, and we're going to take this value down to 0.1. There we go. Okay, so anytime you see that any of your surface looks like it's exploding, it's just a value thing, and that will probably be different in every software and every renderer. So that's pretty common, easy way to change it. Just go to your scale and just adjust that. Okay, so let's just check out how this looks with our displacement off, set to 0. So you can see it's much softer, and we'll change it to 0.1. And you can see the displacement really kicks in and adds that extra little detail, but we don't need that high polygon count. So that's one of the values of setting up displacement every time. Okay, so let's do a couple of things really quick. Let's go to our dome light. Let's get rid of this background. If you go to your dome light environment tab, you can uncheck enable background, and it'll kill that. And let's zoom off our object a little bit and let this catch up. And again, these renders will depend on how fast your machine is, whether you're using OpenGL or CPU, etc. Okay, so now you can see that was pretty quick. We have all of our materials set up. We have our color assigned, our bump assigned, our spec assigned. Now we just need to adjust the materiality and some of those values, like our displacement values and our bump values. So the first half is kind of plugging it up. The second half is dialing it in. Okay, so now you can see we're getting a lot of really hot spec hits on this rock material here. So we'll go to our attribute editor, click on the object, go to our material, and on our reflection tab we have our roughness and our weight. Our roughness will drag that down about halfway, and our weight will drag that down to meet it about halfway too. Because this is rock and dirt, we don't need a super high specular unless it's wet, and in this case it's not. It's a nice bright sunny day. And that's it. Now that we have our light set up, we can just rotate this around, find the lighting that we want. And we'll pick something like we had before with a little breaking light. And make it a little more sunset. There we go. So I'll walk us through it one more time just to recap. You assign your color first, your spec, then your bump, and then you add your displacement. But always remember to go to your object and enable your tessellation and displacement, or your displacement won't show up. And then that's it. Hope that helped. Enjoy, make some cool shit, send us some images, tag us on social media.